I'm Jason, and I wanted to do a review for this past weekend's #1 film entitled The Grey. First off, I gotta say I'm a little under the weather today. Not feeling very well at all, but I still wanted to come in here and do a little review, talk about this movie since it's new. First off, for those of you that haven't seen anything on this film, it stars Liam Neeson. And, Liam Neeson has just been in a shit ton of movies lately. I mean, if you look at his resume over the last couple of years, it seems like there's a new Liam Neeson movie coming out every week, whether it's straight to DVD or if it's in a theater. I mean, he has to be one of the hardest working men in Hollywood right now. You know, he's really on a roll. I mean, it's just incredible. Even before this movie, there was a couple of movies previewed that he's coming out in. Battleship was one, and there's another one coming out. That's another Liam Neeson film. But anyway, for those of you that don't know the story of this, Liam Neeson plays a guy named Otway, whatever, how the hell you say it. He's a broken man. I mean, he's had some problems with his wife, as you can see through flashbacks and stuff. Starts off, he's telling this narration of, how he works at this oil refinery in the northern tip of Alaska. He calls it, the ends of the earth. And, it's a desolate place. He's hired as a marksman to watch over the actual oil refiners. Like there's wild wolves everywhere, so he's hired to be a sharpshooter. Whenever the wolves are coming in to take out one of the oil refinery guys, he shoots them, kills them. That's his job. And it's a depressing place to be. He describes it as a place for ex-cons, criminals, fugitives, and assholes, people unfit for normal society. And that's really what it is. Like when he, at the beginning, it's the end of his day, and he walks into like the commissary or bar, whatever it is. There's a fight in there. Everybody's drinking. It's just pretty crazy and loud and stuff like that. But anyway, him and a bunch of his co-workers are, I believe they're taking time off or something like that, and they are taking a plane to Anchorage, Alaska. Well, during the flight, there's a blizzard that breaks out, and it's just crazy, and they run into a lot of turbulence, and one thing leads to another, and of course they crash, as you can tell in the trailer. And it's in a very desolate part of Alaska. And, everybody is killed off except a few. There's only a few survivors left. And, Liam Neeson, right away, there's wolves everywhere. And Liam Neeson, he explains, how wolves are very territorial, and like they will be territorial of their land within 300 miles of their den. And the closer you are to their den, the more protective and territorial they get. Well, right away they see how these wolves can be, and they're left with no choice but to abandon the wreckage of the plane and head south. They were in the air for quite a long time, and they figure, their only chance of survival is to just walk. I mean, they're either going to freeze to death or get killed by these wolves if they stay at the wreckage. They can't take the chance of there possibly being a rescue crew come out for them, and especially in the conditions that they're in. So, they go against the odds and decide to go ahead and head south. And along the way, these wolves are constantly on their ass. It's like a kind of a cat and mouse game with the wolves, and that's the basis of the story. They run into a lot of problems with the wolves, just continuously. And it reaches a point where they realize, these wolves aren't killing for food; they're killing to let these guys know, hey, you're in our fucking land. They're killing because you're in their territory, and that's what they have to face as they try to find, some type of civilization to be saved from this that they're going through. There's a lot of similar movies to this. Right offhand, The Thing comes to mind because It's an all-male crew. There's no females, I believe, at all in this movie, except for, flashbacks and stuff like that. But, the immediate characters are all male. So that immediately brings to mind a thing because, the cold lands, just guys. And then another one that came to mind was the movie Alive, which I really love a lot, about the true story of a rugby team that crashed in the Andes Mountains, I believe. I'm not sure where. But they had to survive by resorting to cannibalism. But just that, the whole plane crash and being out in the middle of nowhere, that, brings to mind Alive. And then a more recent one would be Adam Green's Frozen from 2 years ago. Because, the wolves, obviously, the cold weather, and all that stuff. But, as the movie went along, it starts off, the characters, I really thought that they were going to be one-dimensional. Like, it had all the earmarks of being just one-dimensional characters right off the bat, but as the movie goes along and they reach these points where they set up camp, and the director, John, I can't think of his last name, but he really lets the characters open up in certain of these scenes, campfires and stuff where they talk about their families, they talk about the things they went through, and these are all very flawed men. Liam Neeson especially, he's a sad Irishman, he's very down on his luck. He's a broken man, but through all of this, he has a certain leadership that you come to respect. And a lot of the other guys, that survive, they're apprehensive about letting him be the leader. Certain ones of them are. But you quickly see what other option do you have, he does have the best ideas, so they kind of go along with it. But, the characters really open up and expand as the movie goes along. I really thought that the setting in this was, it screams of dread. It's cold. There's the constant threat of the wolves. They're in a living hell throughout this movie. And the thing that I really like, too, about, the cold setting of the film is it never one time felt like it was a set or something fake. Like, it always looked very real, very authentic. And I don't know how much of this was shot on location or in actually cold locations, but I'm sure a lot of it was. It had to have been. And for the parts that wasn't, they did a hell of a makeup job on these guys to make them really look cold. The chapped, worn faces and stuff, and the scrapes and shit that they went through, and bite marks and tears and all this shit. You really get the sense of dread from this movie a lot, and there are a lot of very tense moments in this, and some of them being very quiet, like when the wolves come in at night. There's certain scenes where they can hear them, they can sense them, and in the theater you got the surround sound, so you're hearing them coming in at all different angles, and there's just some creepy ass scenes with all of that. And especially when the wolves appear, and they have the guys have the campfire. When the wolves appear in the dark, you slowly see their eyes lighten up in the dark, and that's all you can see. It's very creepy moments like that really work. But despite all the good with this movie, guys, in the end, it really just felt like a by the numbers survival movie. Like, there was really nothing that you hadn't really seen before as far as the story goes. And despite the characters opening up and being more than one-dimensional, the story itself was horribly one-dimensional. That's where the movie has a serious flaw. Like, it's, basically they crash and they have to fight these wolves, and really the story never evolves past that point. Like, especially in the beginning, there was a lot of tense moments with that. But eventually you realize it's just a one-trick pony story, and therefore it kind of drags the overall entertainment value of the story down. And it reaches a point where it almost gets too talky at times. Like, I think there's just one or two scenes too many of just open dialogue trying to progress the story, but sometimes it just didn't felt needed towards the end. The movie runs 2 hours long, and I felt it was a good 15 or 20 minutes too long. It just doesn't, I don't know, it would have been better if it was trimmed down a little bit and they took out some of those talky scenes. And the main thing that I want to mention on this, as far as thing that I didn't like or I think is going to be really controversial, is the ending. I didn't mind the ending so much, but I can clearly see that this is going to be an ending that it really polarizes audiences because, I mean, there's just no way to even talk about it. I can't mention anything about the end without ruining it. But it's going to definitely split audiences, and I have a feeling that most people is not going to be satisfied with the ending. And as far as the ending goes, too, I did not know this till after we left the theater, but stay for the credits, because after the credits, there is a small extra little added-on scene which does have to do with closing up the story. Now, me and my wife missed that, but we did read online what exactly happened, so, you know, unfortunately we didn't get to see it, but we heard at least. But yeah, guys, the ending is going to probably ruin it for some people. Now, for me, you know, it did knock it down a few notches. I mean, I got to be honest. Like, you know, even despite the one-dimensional story and all that, I still enjoyed it because I like the survival film. I like, you know, those cold weather films. It's perfect for this time of year. That's probably why the movie got #1, you know, and plus the role Liam Neeson's been on. But, you know, despite all the one-dimensionality, I still enjoyed the film. But then when it got to the end, I was just like, man, you know, it kind of negated the rest of the story. It kind of made the overall movie pointless. I mean, that's really all I can say. That's how I felt at the end. I was like, that was kind of just pointless. The whole movie in general was pointless after that ending, you know. So I don't know, guys. I would definitely say check this out. For those of you, like I said, that enjoy movies like The Thing, Alive, Frozen, you know, cold weather movies, give it a shot. You know, it's Liam Neeson's good, and all of the acting all the way around is really good. The supporting cast was really strong, really good. You know, there's some cliched characters in there, but it still ends up working when they open up those characters and you get to see more facets of their personality and what's going on with them. Now, as far as the wolves go, you know, it'd be very easy to just cheaply do these CG, but you know, I haven't looked into this enough to know how much of these were, you know, computer generated, but I would venture to say quite a bit probably wasn't, because it looks so damn good. I mean, if they did these wolves CG, there's like the parts where, you know, you see their eyes popping up in the dark, I'm sure that was CG. But you know, a lot of the close-up shots, I mean, there was one in particular with the wolf where they're showing it up close and showing its eyes. I mean, I could tell it was a practical wolf, which I thought was really cool that they did that. And you know, I think I know there were some definitely live-action wolf shots, but some of the up-close scenes and fighting scenes and stuff like that, I'm not exactly sure how they pulled it off, how much was CG, how much was practical, but you know, my point is, it fooled me if it was CG, and that is always the best kind of CG. You know, I'm not talking, you know, about Twilight bullshit wolves that, you know, you can clearly tell are CG. You won't find that in The Grey. In this, they were done very, very well. Every shot that I've seen and can remember very well, it all looked good. Now, you know, if you look at this movie more than once and start picking it apart, I'm sure, you know, there might be a scene or two here where you're like, well, clearly you can tell that's CG. But just on a first viewing, no, not at all. It was done very excellently well. I thought that it definitely worked. But overall, guys, I would give this movie a 6 out of 10. Just barely above average. If it would have had a little bit more to the story and a little bit more of a satisfying ending, it would have been a definite hit to me. You know, I mean, it would have been a lot more memorable. But it still works for what it is. The survival film fans are going to like it. You know, those that like Liam Neeson, you're definitely going to like it because he does the role very well. So yeah, guys, I give it a 6 out of 10. That is The Grey. It's out now in theaters. Go check it out, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm Jason. I'll talk to you later.